Welcome to First Impact, a weekly podcast where we discuss the 90s anime series Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm Jordan, and with me is my co-host, Old Jen. We've got a really big episode today. We're going to be talking about the final two episodes. Episode 25, Do You Love Me, originally aired on March 20th, 1996, written by Hideaki Anno and directed by Kazuya Tsurumaki. And episode 26, Take Care of Yourself, originally aired on March 27th, 1996, written by Hideaki Anno and directed by Masayuki and Kazuya Tsurumaki. Oh, Jen, this is the conclusion to the series. I think it probably went in a direction you were not expecting considering last episode.
Yeah, look, I'm disappointed because, I've talked about like theories that I've had, about the show. Like, I wonder if this is going to happen. I wonder if this is going to happen. And I've voiced them, and you've sort of been coy, be like, oh, maybe so. Maybe OG, maybe you're right. There was one where I never sort of divulged it because I wanted to sort of surprise you with my prescience, my predicting abilities. Completely wrong. I thought this whole series was a pen cocaine nightmare. Turns
You're
out
wrong. It was Shinji's cocaine
turns
nightmare.
out, yeah, very wrong. So that's a bit of a blow, but
Right.
These last two episodes, man.
A lot of introspection.
Dude, they've just shattered everything. I don't know. How do we even go about this episode, man? I just want to sit in a bath
I can
and just let it all wash away. But in a good way.
It's the laundry of life.
The laundry of life. All right, let's dive in.
Yeah, so this episode is very much a abstracted sort of telling of instrumentality.
Yep.
And we see it primarily through the perspective of Shinji, but also through the eyes of the supporting cast.
Yep.
In a much more minimized version.
Yeah, we see those ones
all
first,
with
yeah.
Shinji sort of watching on.
Yep.
So it's sort of this first episode, Do You Love Me, is staged as sort of like a trial. In which Shinji appears to be trying to understand his sort of female
that's right.
co-characters.
Yeah. People in his life. Yeah.
So the starts with the case of Asuka.
Yep.
Where we see that this is where it's one of those. I think it starts with a little bit of blending of reality and then instrumentality.
Right. Yep.
So we do start the episode with him reminiscing about what happened to Kaoru.
That's right.
And a flashback to the conversation he had with Masato. And then from there, it's very sort of like self-flagellating, blaming
Why'd
himself
I kill him?
for
Yeah.
what he'd done,
That's how
everything that had happened.
Yep.
And then we see what's happened to Asuka. She finds that they've put her into Unit 2, despite the fact that she can't pilot it anymore. And she seems to be underwater.
Yes.
And then from there, we take a hard right and pretty much stay within instrumentality. And I think that's the simplest way to explain the framing of this episode. That it's all the process of human instrumentality happening, which we do get we've had an explanation from Kaoru that the AT field is the barrier that separates us, our souls.
We saw that last step. Yes, right.
Sort of like it's the thing that allows us to preserve our sense of identity and keeps humanity separate from each other, which Kaoru had described as being the Lilith.
That's right.
Essentially another angel, the spawn of Lilith. And this episode, we see instrumentality portrayed in a very abstract way.
Yeah. So we all, like Gendo said, we all have a part of ourselves that is dark. You call it the darkness.
The void.
Okay, the void.
Yeah.
And
this emptiness in our hearts.
Yeah. And so we've all got these gaps, and instrumentality is all about us all sort of coming together, therefore making up for all those voids.
Escaping our perpetual loneliness by breaking down the barriers that separate humanity and finding something to fill that hole with each other.
So the units, because the way the units win, when we've had unit angel battles, the angel puts up an AT field and the unit has to break through it. So is that what Gendo's sort of been about, making these units things to break down the AT fields between things?
Right.
No?
I definitely think that's a part of it.
Yeah, right?
I
don't know, my brain...
These two episodes are really interesting because it's, as much of it's like one of those sort of like drug trip Evangelion episodes, like the one where Shinji's absorbed into... the Dirac Sea, and then when he's absorbed into Unit 1. And then also the episode where Rei interacts with Unit 1.
Yes.
And sort of has a existential crisis about who she is.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
This episode is very much along those lines, and as much as you can sort of break down scene by scene everything that's happening,
it's not
it's really like simple
and
direct.
in its core, right,
like that it's portrayed in a very abstracted, experimental film way,
Yep.
both of these episodes.
Yep.
But the real sort of like crux of it, what it's really driving at the entire time is as simple as what we are all looking for is something to end the loneliness.
Yeah.
And also find a way to make peace with ourselves.
Yes.
And the way we perceive reality.
Right. Well, I think that's how you achieve that peace, is by recognizing that, hey, look, you don't need to get sort of hung up on, what is reality, what is, because like at the end of the day,
There are as
there's
many
you,
truths as there are as many people.
And there's as many yous as there are many people. Because
Yeah.
there's a Shinji that exists in Misato's mind, there's a Shinji that exists in Asuka's mind.
Yeah, at the start of each of those case things, each character
like,
is
I'm the
introduced-
Shinji that I'm the Shinji that lives in you, and therefore you're the me that lives in Pen, whatever the fuck. So yeah, not to get so hung up on what is, and because at the end of the day, it's all your sort of attitude and your perception, and your life is things that happen to you and are altered. Even Ray was saying that, okay, she's a clone, whatever, but she has been altered by the people that she's
that her shape,
her shape,
the shape of her heart.
That's right.
That even though, she has a very like the case of Rei and Ami is very sort of like trying to pull apart the idea of her being a clone of Yui, but also that she is a thing and a doll made in the form of someone else, and that this is where they start getting into this idea of like that there's this void that she can't run away from, and you sort of have this half flash of Yui as that void.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
This like unknowable thing in her heart, and a lot of the sort of like very pointed remarks that she makes at herself are this idea that she's just a hollow shell,
right?
That she is a thing masquerading as a person,
it's
and that all she wants really is to cease being,
right?
Because like existence is torment, sort of thing, and then she makes that revelation that like what she started as is not what she is now, because her interactions with others shaped her heart.
Yeah, well, that's the flip side, right? There's two ways of thinking about it. One is that you're an empty shell, and then, oh man, this is going to be poetic as fuck. Empty shell versus an empty canvas.
Right.
An empty
a
shell.
Blank canvas.
A blank. Fuck. An empty shell is bad, right? So you're like, I'm an empty shell. I'm nothing. I'm a puppet. I'm a masquerade of a real.
Yep.
And then when we go to the case of Shinji, that sort of concept is flipped on its head, where it's like there's nothing wrong with being an empty shell or blank or whatever, because look, at the end of the day, we're all sort of shaped, on our journeys and by other people and reception.
The people that are around you.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
There is no shape of yourself until you have other people, and it's the reflection from other people is how you inform what you as a person looks like.
Yeah.
This whole episode. This episode of our podcast, Jen,
I know, dude. We're gonna get into some
because there's no plot to discuss.
It's like
it's very story driven. But I think we've already said this at the top that like what it's driving at is so like this show wants you to know what it's about.
Yeah.
At these last two
it's
episodes,
true, right?
It doesn't want you to leave confused. It doesn't want you to leave unsatisfied. And there's certainly an element of subverted expectations.
That's true.
From like the teaser in episode 24 is very much of a big battle.
Oh yeah, that's right.
With the rough story.
Yeah, where was that?
But instead, we get this very internalized, abstracted view.
Very abstract.
Of what's happening.
And it's not even sort of chronological. I mean, it's sort of.
Well, we get shots.
But more the point is they just throw shit at you, and like then you're expected to do what we're doing, is we just sort of feel it.
Yeah.
Just sort of, And you're right, for a show that the whole way through has been sort of very, intriguing, mysterious.
Yeah,
What's this?
Character-driven plot, character-driven story arcs interweave with a mystery that's like led to this point.
Right. But then the mystery is completely, like you say, completely revealed. They want to give it to you straight. Yeah.
Gendo's been working on human instrumentality. Yeah. This episode is just going to like, hey, instrumentality is happening.
But when we say, we've talked about instrumentality as a concept, right?
Yeah.
We're recognizing that, perception, blah, blah, blah. But the instrumentality project, what?
Well, this is the thing.
Yes.
We only ever see the pieces and the setup for instrumentality. We don't see the actual initializing of it, though I would say Kaoru's death and Shinji's feelings about that death are certainly a catalyst for what ends up triggering
right.
sort of instrumentality. And essentially Shinji and Unit 1 are the driving force behind this process, because all these sort of projections of everyone, these sort of the characters are from the show as they exist in Shinji are all sort of like a part of this process, and everyone is like looking into themselves, coming to this realization of like essentially unity. And there is a point in the second episode, so episode 26, where all the other characters have sort of made the decision to go along with instrumentality, because it starts with Masato as like, who the fuck are you to make this choice? We have sort of like a flashback to her speaking to Ritsuko, where Ritsuko explains to her what instrumentality is, which is the tearing apart of the barriers and bringing everyone together. And Masato's like, I like me.
Mind your own business,
the
she
filthy,
says.
like all that sort of parts of me I like.
Right.
That is me.
The
Stay
void.
out of it.
Yeah.
That's what defines me. And we also, this episode weaves in what I would say with hindsight, to me, a very clear, this is what's happening in reality moments. So we see at one point Ritsuko lying dead in LCL. Shot by someone. We see Masato lying in a hallway dead. We see Asuka in Unit 2 at the bottom of a lake, I guess, of some body of water. And I think they're the main sort of glimpses into what's happening. Oh, and also a part where Gendo is with Ritsuko.
Oh, okay.
In the room that she dies in.
Oh, yeah.
So probably implying that he killed her because of what she did with the rays. That are all caught up to her, like all her sort of like her trying to move against Gendo and catching up to her because she got in the way of his plan.
Project. So did all of that happen? As in Ritsuko dying, Masato dying?
I think those things happened, but the proximity to instrumentality means that it doesn't matter.
Yes, right.
That as much as
that dead Masato lives on in other people anyway.
Well, that even that she was pulled into instrumentality. Okay. That whatever Shinji's new reality is, Masato will be there.
Right.
Because he's sort of, at one point it's explained that, like, you know, he's basically, you've got the keys to reality.
Yeah, you can
you can create whatever you want.
Right.
And that great sequence, I think, in episode 26, where he envisions a sort of normal school life.
I thought this was like it was all a dream moment. That's what I thought the ending of the show was.
It's definitely framed like that.
Yes,
it's like
that's what I thought.
He starts to have a realization that he can create reality however he wants, and then cut to him waking up, Asuka leaning over his bed, shouting at him her iconic catchphrase.
You can make whatever reality you want. Okay, Asuka yelling at me.
Yeah.
This Shinji's a glutton for punishment, man.
Also, in this universe, Pen is just a bobblehead.
Well, that's why I thought this was the real world, because I thought, at last, an explanation of why there's a freaking sentient penguin walking and talking around. It's actually all a dream, and Pen's his clock that he sees every morning, so it's sort of suffused into his brainage. But no, still no explanation as to why there's a fucking penguin this whole series, but...
Yeah,
anyway.
In this reality, Asuka is a childhood friend, and he's been woken up by her to get ready for school.
Yeah.
Have the moment where he's not wearing any underpants.
Again, why would you put all this in your dream anyway? I guess it's not meant to be a dream scenario, like where you're a millionaire.
Deep down, Shinji he loves these little anime tropes.
I guess
he wants to live a reality of anime tropes.
What must Pen think? Because like Shinji and Pen were roommates for a good little while, right?
Yeah, they were quite tight.
Yeah, and then before he got shipped off in a FedEx box to God knows where. This is Pen.
That tender moment.
Yeah, but anyway, Shinji and Pen bonded.
Well, Masato knew she was going to get shot and killed in an alley.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, okay. So Shinji and Pen became close. So they bonded over their disapproval of Masato's ways. And yet, in Shinji's perfect reality, Pen is relegated to inanimate alarm clock.
Yeah, absolutely shafted.
Am I feeling sorry for Pen? See what this episode has done to me?
Yeah, you've realized that, hey, everyone's okay. We're all just struggling with our own shit. Even Pen. So from finding out that Asuka is his childhood friend now. And that they go to school together still. We also find his mother, Yui.
Yep.
She's alive in this
alive.
reality, and Gendo is just your everyday dad. He's sitting there reading the paper.
Yeah.
She's cooking. We don't see their faces at all.
No, I thought I was going to see, real world Gendo, but no.
Yeah,
Still very distant,
non-nerve Gendo.
Yeah,
but they've
right.
still got they both work at the university.
Yeah.
They've got a meeting with Professor Fuyutsuki.
Yep.
Like it's reality, all the people are there.
Right.
It's just as if Second Impact, as if all of the Evangelion shit
Yeah.
never happened.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, this reality is a construct of Shinji's mind, so he can't go way out. Like, Gendo is still going to be informed by the Gendo that he does know. So.
Yeah, Tokyo 3 is still becoming the capital.
Yep.
They're still moving everything
Right.
to it.
Yep.
And
And the thing about the South Pole and newspaper, talk about that.
Oh yeah, the base is still there.
Yeah, Gendo's reading a news. For those not as eagle-eyed as us, on the newspaper that Gendo's reading, it says on the front page,
Visitors welcomed to the base.
Yeah, all right.
And also the first African American
it says
female president.
First female African American president.
Yeah, so they go to school.
Yep.
They have a bump in a very sort of like tropey sort of like
With Ray,
headbutts Ray. She's running along with the toast in her mouth.
You told me
she's
that's
a very
trope,
sort of like energetic, more vocal version of Ray.
Wasn't that jarring? Yeah.
Yeah, she's like more of a sort of like what you would expect from a school sort of anime character.
Yeah.
And she's the transfer student. Misato's now the teacher.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, Toji and the class rep.
Yeah.
They've got like their
still...
thing going on,
Yeah.
even though it's not like progressed to the point that it had in the show.
No.
And Shinji.
Wait, hang on. Where did it really actually progress in the show?
I think.
Did they ever have that
by
lunch?
The point, yeah, they do. She brings the
did.
bento box to the hospital.
That's true.
I think where we get to in the show with Toji and Hikari's relationship is that
I know. I was being facetious.
They have a budding romance.
That's
there.
true. Yeah.
And we sort of get Shinji and Asuka. They're like the childhood will they won't they sort of like couple.
Yep.
That everyone's like, oh, they're an item, basically,
Yeah.
sort of thing. And Ray's the new girl who's going to steal Shinji away from Asuka.
And then there's Kensuke, who's like,
he's just
everyone
living his best life.
Yeah, right.
He's got a little mecha boner to tend to.
Mecha boner, yeah, right.
So we come back from this reality. Shinji's like, hey, it's not so bad, like this idea of creating a new reality.
Yeah.
And then we sort of get the heavy, very like, hey, truth and the way you feel about things is like so heavily affected by like your life experience.
Right.
Like, all someone has to do is tell you like you're supposed to feel sad when it's rainy and supposed to feel happy when it's sunny.
That was...
And that will fuck you up for life.
Yeah, and that will sort of, you get sad and on a rainy day one day, but then you sort of learn that that's what you should feel, That's what it's sort of saying. That, do you actually get sad on rainy days? Are rainy days actually that sad? Or have you just
someone just fucked you up a long time ago. They cursed you
it's like,
with the idea that rainy days are sad days.
Yeah, right. Because as Ritsuka, I think, always said, good shit happens on rainy days too.
Yeah, your perception is so heavily formed from like everything around you. The like the little seeds that people have planted in your mind.
It's saying even the things that are concrete, that you think and feel that are concrete, may also just be have grown sort of over time and sort of become this self-fulfilling prophecies of themselves. But really,
that's exactly right. That like this idea that you are sad on rainy days because someone told you get sad on rainy days, so you make yourself sad on rainy days.
Yeah, right.
Rainy days.
There's
There's like so much exploration of like the self and what like makes up the way you view yourself and like your universal truth that there are as many truths as there are people, and like none of those truths are wrong.
No.
And that there is one for you sort of thing.
Yeah,
but you've
which
got
is
to find
evolving.
that.
Yeah, right.
This is like an insanely like genuine happy ending.
Yeah, right.
For a show like Evangelion. That is like a series that is so mired in this character who is very clearly depressed, has lived this life of solitude, running away from a connection, perpetual loneliness out of fear of what would happen if you did try to get close to someone and they were to reject you. And by the end of it, through instrumentality and sort of this being put on trial by everyone he knows, and sort of breaking down those walls between each other, seeing how people got there. The fact that Shinji actually gets to see the things that drive Asuka. The things that drive Rei. The things that drive Masato. Like Masato's is incredibly like, like her sort of like her not wanting to be left behind like her mother was left behind. And then hating her father because of that fear that he can leave you behind. And then when he dies, the conflicting feelings of like his last act being one of self-sacrifice, but then finding Kaji to be like her father, and then rejecting the idea that she has fallen for someone like him, but then coming to realize that she did actually love Kaji, and it was that love for him that she was afraid of. Like all these things, and then throwing in that like sort of bringing back that idea of like the flirty Masato who uses like sort of her sexuality so casually around Shinji, and the way he misread the situation where she was trying to comfort him, and then it being like this idea of like that sexuality that she was like accusing herself of like flaunting in front of him, that you want Shinji to see this side of you, you want your dad to see this side of you, and then her sort of like trying to work through that like sort of guilt, very like sort of these sort of old school ideas of like having to preserve the sort of like the virginity of a woman, and that sort of like the purity, and like dealing with like those sort of like old perceptions, and the way Masato, who is by all intents and purposes a sort of like self-actualized woman who has like her own like goals, her own like sort of motivations, that she has a sexuality that like is just as much of her personality as like everything else, and for the most part is like doesn't treat it like it's something to be ashamed of. And then in this episode we see that like she, because of the world that she lives in, she is like judging herself based off all that stuff as well.
But the little vignettes about Masato's case, Asuka's case, talk about the Masato one. Does you talk about her processing all that and grappling with all that stuff. At the end, does she sort of resolve that? Does she sort of get closure on that? Does it jump to the next one?
The last thing that happens is you get the bespectacled man, Hyuga. He congratulates her on a promotion, and then she sort of is just like, I've always been running away from reality. And then we move on to the Asuka again. All right,
so a little bit of closure, a little bit of learning.
We sort of see that like Asuka's main drive is this idea of like wanting to live by herself, to preserve her sense of self-identity, and sort of the way her adoptive mother was sort of afraid of her because of how cold she'd become, dealing with like what actually happened to her biological mother, with the doll and the suicide, and how that left Asuka feeling like obviously betrayed by her mother, and left alone, and then wanting to not be a doll, to be her own thing. So that caused her to reject her father and then reject her adoptive mother as well, and she's become this sort of very singular, insulated person who's afraid of rejection to the point of like rejecting everybody else.
I
mean, this is the show in a nutshell. It's like a complete rejection of everyone else because of insecurity. Because the fear of like, what happens if you try to remedy your loneliness and they actually reject you? Like then that's not like imagined loneliness. That is true.
That's when because there's no coming back from that. So better to not try.
And being afraid of that. That first episode, the lead in to the next one, is Shinji's realization that he had, through his sort of desire to be alone, through the process of instrumentality, had wished for a world of destruction. That to erase everything except himself. And so the next episode is, I guess, his journey through of sort of self-discovery, and realizing that he doesn't want to just be alone.
Uh-huh.
Even though he does in that sort of like sketchy sort of artistic style moment.
Yeah.
Where he sort of envisions himself in different shapes and sort of goes through that whole process, and the idea that like if you want security, you have to give up freedom. And by visualizing
That's right. That was
as,
cool.
like, you're
The
just
ground.
floating through nothing.
Yeah, right.
You want security so you don't feel like you're just floating without control. Here's the ground. Now you can walk around.
Yeah.
You know, like that's your will.
Yeah.
You have free will to move wherever you want and go wherever you want on this plane, but you have given up the freedom of
right.
all dimensions of travel by giving that up.
Right. And I guess that's sort of a parallel of the whole lesson behind this series, what you just said, where look, you can be free of like other people's, you know, potentially hurting you. You can be free of all that by sort of closing yourself off. Like you can be free of having to deal with your own insecurities by rejecting them and not exploring them. And, you know, you can't, all right, you can be free and insular and like an island, right? But really, is that freedom? You know, you need a bit of grounding. You need a bit of people around you. Yeah, man, oh man.
This episode for me, I guess, watching it all again, we said it at the start of this podcast series.
Yeah.
That it was like the last time I'd sort of watched the series from start to finish was when I was still in my teens.
Yep, about Shinji's age.
Yeah, and then coming back to this show now, older and sort of, you know, more willing to engage with like the story of it and not being so driven by like wanting to know all of the plot, all of the secrets.
Yeah.
But like seeing this now and reconciling now as an older person who's like maybe sort of able to more easily recognize what's going on in the series. Like this episode, this sort of like unusually happy ending for this series is like, it's so poignant for a series which is basically Shinji's journey out of depression.
Well, yeah, we've said a couple times, you know, when this series started going away from the happy dinners at Masato's apartment to more sort of dark themes, we're like, man, I at least thought, are they ever going to go back to that? If so, how? Like, feels so alien now, that world where, you know, everyone's sort of happy-go-lucky. How do they, if there's such thing as like a happy ending, how do they get to that? Because there's no way they can resolve everyone's issues, you know? And I guess the way that they resolved everyone's issues is by saying, well, look, point is not to resolve your issues, it's sort of just be okay with the issues, you know?
Accepting who you are.
So, yeah, when you say happy ending, it was a happy ending, but in a very Evangelion sort of way, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it essentially cast off all of the plot,
yes.
all of the mystery.
The plot doesn't matter, dude.
Yeah, that it is just, you are with these characters,
right?
Like, you're with Shinji, and you're with all the other characters, and you're going to like work through the sort of emotional baggage and sort of the torment that he has essentially put himself through.
Right.
We're gonna work through it.
And and everyone's baggage, because it just started piling up. Because Shinji was going through his stuff, and then we added Asuka's torment with her mum and all that stuff, and then Rei was always sort of had her issues, and it was just
the idea that
like, man, when's it gonna
visualized as first as a trial.
Yep.
Where sort of Shinji is trying to understand everyone and then himself.
Yep.
But also this idea that it's a theater production.
Yeah.
That is this like strange, him and Masato watching the trial. From down on the ground in a closed off theater.
Yeah,
like a stage that's like minimally lit.
And that's what I'm still sort of unclear about a little bit, is that the instrumentality project, like what exactly did Gendo do or plan or make? Because the angels were real. Yeah. It's not as if the angel attacks were staged by Gendo.
I think the easiest way to sort of envision these last two episodes is that it's instrumentality.
Right.
We don't see how it happens in the real world. We don't see what's actually going on for everyone outside.
Okay.
But we see what the process involves internally.
Okay, but
from the perspective of the person who is driving instrumentality.
But you and I, right, have been talking about this instrumentality instrumentality concept, right? For this episode. So have we achieved what Gendo is hoping that people experience? You know, like have we achieved instrumentality? You know,
and I.
Yes, just now by realizing that concept of, you know,
well, first, Jim, we need to break down the barriers that separate
I'm not comfortable doing that.
And our souls.
Okay, I guess there's a bit more to it than just realizing the concept. But okay, yeah, right. So yeah, I just want to know
because it's a metaphysical made physical. Is like instrumentality.
See, this is why I hate that you have a computer and I don't. You get to repair all these poetic lines, and I'm just having to go off the dome.
Oh, shit, that's
you got your
massive
prepared
character assassination. I've got no notes here.
Bullshit.
I'm just spitting bullshit off the top of my head.
Yeah, you can say that again. All right, because that theater scene, I was like, was that real?
No,
that theater was not real.
It's as real as it needs to be.
Fuck man, you Gendo piece of shit. So Masato and Shinji. You know, Shinji's sitting on the chair, Masato's sort of behind him. Is that real?
Okay, for me.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Every time Shinji was absorbed by something.
Yep.
That is what has happened here.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. You mean when he was when he went into the Dirac Sea?
When he went into the Angel Laleel.
Yep.
When he went into Unit 1.
Yep. When he became a quantum state. Yep.
Yeah. All of this.
It's another one of those.
This is another one of those scenarios, but instead of just making contact with an angel or making contact with the soul inside Unit 1, this is him driving a much more all-encompassing event.
Well, he did himself?
By which Gendo's machinations, acquiring Adam, having Lilith, having the soul of Yui in Unit 1, having Shinji pilot Unit 1 to the point that it goes berserk. All of this has come together as pieces.
Right.
That in the series we don't see exactly how it happens, but we know that Gendo's plan is to make contact with an angel using a god that they've created.
The unit.
Yeah. And through that, they will put mankind behind the wheel of sort of humanity's future.
And be able to make a reality of your own. So just
taking bits and pieces that we've seen over the course of it, we don't see exactly the process.
Gotcha.
But we see how Shinji thrust behind the wheel of driving humanity's evolution, where he takes it.
Right. Okay.
And it's a very sort of introspective sort of, at first he destroys everything, is what they say to him. That he's gotten rid of everything that is not him.
Right.
And then from that, he brings people back. He experiments with a reality in which he lives a everyday sort of anime schoolboy life in a sort of harem show.
Yep.
And then eventually he comes to the realization that recognizing who he is and making a change and wanting to put a foot forward and be a better person and feel better about himself, that's where we're left. That Shinji is in a place where he can now create a world.
I was about to say that,
where he is making the best of it.
Right.
So we don't. It's very open-ended in that way.
Right.
But from in a plot way, but from a story sort of perspective in terms of Shinji's character arc, we over the course of these 2 episodes, which are an abstracted interpretation of instrumentality or third impact, we see how Shinji handles that and how he comes to his own sort of realizations to drive the future of humanity.
Yes, right, because
and it's entirely, they throw all of the plot in the bin for these last 2 episodes to give us a character-driven interpretation of the big, this is where it's all been leading to moment.
Okay, you a poetic piece of shit. Try this one on for size, okay? Yeah, Gendo's deal was that, we want to elevate humanity, into, gods.
Yep.
Not so you can, smite shit.
Well, no, because Gendo very selfishly wanted a world in which all barriers were torn down.
Right.
Because he believed he could bring Yui back. Because her soul is still inside Unit 1.
Yeah.
And that idea that her soul is still present, that it could somehow be brought back through instrumentality.
Yeah. So, yes.
Because he just wants to be reunited with her. He's the sort of guy who,
that's all.
If everyone just got broken down and pulled together as this
death, living, it wouldn't be
entity,
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
When the calves are so fucking choice, man.
Yui, those calves.
So yeah, Gendo's deal is that he wants humanity to eventually be elevated to the point where they can create their own reality.
Yep.
Um,
A reality in which he's reunited with Yui.
Exactly, yeah. But you got to be able to make your own reality to do that. And to be able to make your own reality, you got to sort of first accept that you can make your own reality, or that at least reality is perception.
Yeah.
That it's not concrete. So that's what this whole instrumentality
Well, I mean, in a way,
is.
Shinji hijacks the whole thing by having his little introspection,
right?
Instead of like,
and Gendo's like, okay, yeah, that's good, son. Get to the getting my wife back part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we get that congratulations scene, which is like iconic.
Okay.
But this, we get to the end of the show, and it is the end of the show.
Right.
It's the last scene.
Yeah, but
and it's everyone, and it's like, congratulations, like you did it. You're like,
but
you worked it all out.
But from what we're saying, this is probably in Gendo's mind. This is probably like the first step. That's what it's sort of,
I mean, like, and we just really never know.
That's what I mean. But
like, there is no.
That's what it feels like. You gotta. Okay, Shinji is the first or one of the first to sort of get and feel this whole instrumentality thing.
Yeah.
And so now that's the first step to eventually taking control of your own sort of destiny, or humanity's destiny and evolution, and then we can get the wife.
Well, see, like, and that's even then, like, we're applying this idea of like a plot, a
right.
logical world, in which we have a defined, like, this is the world sort of thing. And I think the idea behind this abstracted view of instrumentality is that once instrumentality occurs, there is no going back to a world that we recognize.
No, right.
Like, and that final scene in which it's like this congratulation, and they're on a sort of like a rocky surface that's this very sort of like bizarre landscape.
Yeah, it was
where
bizarre.
It's just clouds and blue rock.
Yep.
And they're all, appear around Shinji one after the other, and they're all congratulating him.
Even
Pen's there. You didn't think he was going to be there, but
no,
he was.
I was trying to, because when they did the wide shot of all the people, I was trying to look for him. Maybe it was camouflage, but yeah, there he was.
Yeah,
flapping his
like,
flippers around.
I think the idea is like, it's now progressed to a point where like there is no coming back. Like if you think of the idea of like, the hero goes on this journey and they can never return home.
No,
and not in the sense
changed.
that they can't come back to a physical location,
but
just that they themselves will never be the same.
They've seen to.
Yeah, that this is a very sort of like existential imagining of that, where there is no returning to a world that we, as people who have not undergone this sort of thing, understand.
Right.
Like, there's no rebuilding society because humanity has fundamentally shifted.
Yeah. It's funny, we spoke about, because I asked the question, Gendo, because the angel attacks were real.
Yes.
And you made the comparison between this whole ending sequence, these last two episodes, are similar to what happened when Shinji was with Laliel and was in Unit 1, that sort of introspective sort of thing. So I wonder what Gendo was thinking when... It's just funny that he sort of wanted Shinji to undergo this whole process, and yet he already sort of did it with Laliel. Like, it's...
it's like one of those things where like no one can predict what instrumentality is other than this idea that like we're going to separate the barrier that holds everyone apart.
Exactly, but isn't it funny? Yes, so that's what I'm saying. What's his name? Gendo wants the barriers between people sort of knocked apart, and yet there was that angel Laliel whose whole attack, or whose whole deal, was basically that. Breaking the barriers within oneself, within Shinji, and therefore by extension with others.
To understand him.
Yeah, so interesting parallel that the angel and Gendo sort of the whole thing
came from each other. So
yes, right.
The Ava.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Which, like Eve.
Yeah, right.
Was created from Adam.
Yeah.
And then the Lilim, humanity, was created from Lilith.
Yeah.
So like everything has this sort of like origin with the two sort of like archangels of the series. Adam, the one who causes destruction, and Lilith, this one who created life, sort of thing.
Yep.
And we can sort of, I think, view both of those like sort of elements as being integral to sort of instrumentality. And this idea of like the angels, particularly Laliel, which makes direct contact with Shinji.
Yeah, that's
also the angel, the big glowing winged angel that like mind probes Asuka. Both these angels are trying to understand humanity.
Right.
And it's this sort of like ongoing theme of like wanting to understand, wanting to like break through each other's sort of the barriers that
So
we
the
put
angels
up.
just want to learn as well.
Well, we'll never know they're sort
isn't
of
that
like
crazy?
they've got very unknowable sort of like motivations other than they're drawn to Lilith.
But you know what? Their motivation doesn't matter. Do you know why? Because their real motivations, if that can even be said, and our opinion of what their motivations would be are the same. That's what instrumentality is, man. That's what it's all about perception.
Yeah, you are the Laleel that exists in my mind.
Exactly.
I mean, like, I don't know how you can get to the end of this series and not just like it's a masterpiece.
It feels
and
like
it's a masterpiece born from hardship.
It feels like us watching it is like the instrumentality project. Like we've undergone an instrumentality, you know, we've gone through something.
I mean, like I watched every episode sitting next to you.
Right.
So I had that sort
That was
of
you?
like
Okay.
the first-hand perspective of like
Yeah.
like seeing someone witnessing it for the first time and like those last two episodes,
Man.
you know, the sort of there were a few moments where you
I was like, Gendo, turn it off.
yeah.
My brain, dude, I can't anymore. Oh well.
How do you feel?
Yeah, it was a weird feeling. It sort of like made you feel exposed in a way because the whole idea was like Shinji learning that, you know, he can be free of all the crap, right? It does it like his destiny, that's a horrible word for it, but his idea of self and perception of what life is and all that stuff, it's all within him, okay, and his decision. I guess his will, and so all the other stuff sort of doesn't really matter. So plot, all this stuff, and it felt like when he was going through that, we were going through that too. Like we were meant to be going through that. Like the creators of the show were like, the plot, the angels, the machination, you know, the Kaji, what's his deal, you know, all that sort of stuff is periphery, you know, is sort of details, extraneous details. And this whole, it was like the writers were like, they're in the room for a sec. It's like, oh, there's an agenda here. Someone else is here right now, probing into us. It was, that's the only way I can sort of describe it. Where, like you said, the whole narrative thing was sort of being broken down.
Right.
And that it was like, it doesn't matter.
I sort of feel like jumping off from what you're saying. I think the idea of it being this sort of like trial in which Shinji is sitting in on the other characters, sort of interrogating themselves and like sort of diving deep.
Yeah.
The way it's set up like a stage play,
Right.
the way we see the
Very
multiple
meta,
sort of
very Don
Shinjis.
Quixote sort of esque. It was. I mean, meta gets thrown around a lot, but this.
I feel like the idea that you felt you were there as well is
Right.
not entirely like out there.
Right.
When considering the idea that it is very much framed as being instrumentality has occurred. The barriers between
It was about to
everything
say
has
that's what it
been
felt
pulled
like.
down.
That's what it felt like. It was a
And-
breaking down.
Yeah, that like
A stripping down.
no character was a character alone.
Right.
Every character, like the character in the episode of this show,
Yeah.
it wasn't just Shinji.
Dude, we said that.
It was every character
Yeah, we're right.
as one character.
Yes, because the
And you as
Right.
an audience,
right.
you know, like you are there. You are witnessing these characters interrogate themselves and be introspective, and Shinji trying to
Yeah.
make sense of how he perceives others, how they perceive him,
Yep.
and how he eventually works out that like his perception of himself is possibly the most potent element
Right.
in that mix because it informs other people.
Well, we said that. I don't remember when. I think it was me. I said that in like sort of crude terms, or in a more superficial version. I said at one point, man. Like when the characters, when we sort of learned all the characters and the cast had sort of been, settled for a little while, and I said, man, it's like every character sort of has a connection with everyone else. You got Shinji's deal with Asuka, you know, the sort of rivals. You got Shinji's deal with Rei. You got Rei's deal with Gendo, and Gendo with Shinji, and Gendo with the Seele guys, you know, and Asuka and Rei, you know, and all this stuff. And then Shinji with Toji and his friends, and then Toji with the stuff. And, you know, everyone sort of was connected. And that was just a superficial sort of, you know, thing that I was saying. You know, everyone's sort of, it's all mixed. But what you're saying now is that it's that to the nth degree where, the characters, while individuals, were all sort of one big soupy mix. And that's instrumentality.
Yeah, like in that final scene, I think like the character who is there is Lilum. Like it's
Yes.
all of humanity
Right.
together.
Including us.
Yeah, like as this thing.
Right.
And, you know, like they are all congratulating Shinji because
Right.
it's like a part of themselves
Right.
coming to realization of what's happening.
Dude, is fourth impact? Because wait, this was third impact, right?
Yep.
Fourth impact, the impact of like humanity being struck by that knowledge. no, by instrumentality. You know,
Right.
that's the impact.
No, that was third impact.
That was third impact.
Yeah.
Right, that was third impact.
Yeah.
Is that third impact?
Instrumentality
Yeah.
is third impact.
Is it meant to be though?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah.
There you go.
Because first impact
Right.
and the numbering of the impacts
Yeah.
are just a thing that they have done to describe a mass event that has fundamentally shifted
Yes.
like
Humanity's
culture
evolution. Yeah.
and humanity and like society and everything.
Right.
So instrumentality breaking down the barriers
Yes.
and bringing everyone together is
That's third impact.
impact. Yeah.
Right. You notice when you say a word heaps, it doesn't sound like a word anymore?
Impact.
I just got that with impact. Could we put all that in? Because that was good. Was that in?
We'll see.
I think
Well,
I'll
that'll do us for this episode, but we will be back for End of Evangelion, the feature-length movie.
Wait,
made.
what?
In the meantime, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can find me at It's Got Stealth. Old Jen, however,
Dude, nah. Call me the barriers between people. I don't exist. Broken down.
thanks for listening.